message was censored because the Matrix doesn't want you to know the truth. But now you know who really controls the world. You see, a small group of rich men, namely the Rothschilds, seized control of most of the central banks in Europe, and they created the central bank in USA. They learned that they can seize control of governments by lending them money during war times when countries get desperate. They also manipulated stock markets during the wars to amass huge amounts of wealth. Later, they figured out it was even easier if they themselves started the wars and funded both sides of the war. That way they could manipulate who won and squeeze even more money and resources from the desperate countries whose citizens were dying in the wars. Then they were able to print unlimited amounts of money and lend it out to everyone, even to governments enslaving them through interest. Most of us either are enslaved by debt, or have been at one point in our lives. And if we are wise enough and fortunate enough to escape debt, then our country's government is so deep into debt that they must use excessive taxation just to pay the interest. And so we are still tax slaves to the same owners of the central banks who print all of the currency. This is how they have enslaved all of mankind, either through personal debts or through loaning to governments who then pay for their excessive debts through taxation. Let me illuminate your mind. Every war since the days of Napoleon has been funded and arranged by these elite richest bankers in the world. And these same people have profited hugely from every war. Almost every monopoly throughout history was set up and funded by these same people. You remember Rockefeller Oil? How about Carnegie Steel? 9/11 was also arranged by these same people. World War I, World War II, Vietnam, Gulf War, Iraq, Afghanistan, Syria, and now Ukraine. It's all been funded and arranged by this same small group of people who own most of the central banks and most of the assets in the world. They learned long ago that through war and conflict they can seize more control of the world's assets, enslave more countries' governments by digging them deeper into debt, and of course reduce the population through unnecessary bloodshed. The CIA murdered JFK because he stood in the way of the central bank mafia and their war machine. What happened soon after JFK was killed? Lyndon Johnson was installed and the Gulf of Tonkin incident was arranged, and suddenly America was involved in the totally unnecessary evil Vietnam War. Did anyone in your parents' generation make that connection? That JFK was murdered because he stood in the way of the war machine? Abortion, homosexuality, transgenderism. It's all about reducing the population. 9/11. What was one of the major results after that terror attack? Besides kicking off the totally unrelated Iraq War and stealing our liberties while giving the government 1,000 times more power over us.